Sup guys, Border here, and welcome to the grand finale of the journey to 700 Spec. Today is the day we complete the journey. Today is the day we become men. PvE, fame farming, with the Realm Breaker. Grab your snacks, grab your popcorn, your drinks, you don't want to miss anything, stick around. Some people think the Great Axe is a brain-dead weapon, an unskillful, amateur-hour face roll option of weaponry. You want to know what I think? I see a Great Axe. A full-size 4x4 Jeep Wrangler Transforma Giga Chad Alpha Male. We're not just spinning to win, we're out here mowing the grass of the battlefield, chopping down every peasant in sight, and weed whacking like we're getting paid for it. So the next time you pick up a Great Axe, just know you're not just choosing a weapon, you're choosing a goddamn lifestyle. Welcome to the Great Axe Club. Welcome to Scripted Gaming. Hey guys, Border here, and welcome back to another video. This is episode 5 of the journey to 700 Spec, and the grand finale of this series. In case you're late joining in on this journey, we started a brand new series where we'll be leveling not one, but all 7 axes to 100 Spec. So, to recap, in episode 1, we leveled the Battle Axe all the way up to 100 Spec, followed by the Halberd, followed by the Carrion Collar, leading into the Bear Paws, which leads us to today, the grand finale, episode 5 with the Realm Breaker. So I'll be linking episode 1, 2, 3, and 4 in the video description below to get you guys all caught up. And since we're going to be using the Realm Breaker for today, the season finale, I figured it'd only be right for today's giveaway to be a tier 6.3 Realm Breaker, the exact same one I'm going to be using in today's video. I'm going to be giving this away to one lucky winner. So if you want a chance to win this prize, all you need to do is subscribe to the channel, like the video, and comment your in-game name in the comments below. And 1 week from now, I'll be picking a winner in the Great Axe Club community Discord, so stay tuned for that. To get us started, we will be farming in the... Hey, your mammoth's blocking the shot, brother! Can you craft somewhere else? Alrighty, to get ourselves started, we will be farming static dungeons today. But before we head out, let's take a real quick look at our build, because we have to pull out the absolute juice for these static dungeons. So, weapon of choice, Realm Breaker. The Q I'll be using in this video is Rending Rage for that maximized damage, but if you don't have that unlocked, that's completely fine. You can just use Rending Spin, which is still a great option for AoEing down groups of mobs. And moving on to our W, I'll be using Raging Blades, again for AoE and that increased damage. If you don't have that unlocked either, completely fine, you can just use an Adrenaline Boost, which is great for increasing your DPS. And all of that will be paired with the first passive. Moving on to our hood, we'll be using the Spectre Hood for Flash of Insight. This will be paired with Hellion Jacket, so getting 2 charges of that Hellion Jacket will be very efficient in terms of sustain. And that will be paired with the first passive. And just as I mentioned, Hellion Jacket for that Lifesteal Aura. This is going to offer huge amounts of sustain in terms of self-healing and damage for those big group of mobs, consistent pulling, and that will be paired with the first passive. And for our boots, we'll be using Hunter's Shoes. That's going to be used for Refreshing Sprint, just for that lower cooldown. Each time you use the boot, it's going to bring our cooldowns off cooldown a little bit faster, and that's going to be great, again, for consistent pulls, nice sustain, and that will be paired with the second passive. Moving on to our cape, we will be using Limhurst Cape. Axes can be kind of energy hungry in terms of energy, so whenever our energy drops below 40%, that's going to restore our energy up nice and high, so that'll be nice for pulling consistent chains of mobs. And moving on to our potions, kind of the same thing with the Limhurst Cape. We're going to need high amounts of, or rather sustained amounts of energy, so we're going to be using potions to keep our energy nice and high. And last but not least, we have our roast perk for our food, so every time we deal damage, we're going to steal a little bit of health and increase our self-healing, so that's going to be nice for sustain. So the current cost of this build with this tier gear is currently around 2.1 million silver, and I know that sounds like a lot, but we will be farming in the yellow zone static dungeons today, so we have no risk of losing our gear, so it only makes sense to pull out the best gear we can afford. And one last thing, we will be earning bonus fame in this episode by 3 different ways. Method number 1 is through the Knight's Vow buff. This is going to increase our combat fame gain by 2%. And this can be obtained through the Conqueror's Challenge, as you can see here. Method number 2, we're going to be using Auto Respec. When we slay enemies, this is going to give us combat fame credits at the cost of silver, but please be aware this does cost a fair bit of silver, so only use Auto Respec if you have enough silver to spare. And method number 3 is going to be through faction flagging at this enlistment NPC. We're going to be flagging and earning faction points through these static dungeons when slaying mobs. We can then use the faction points to purchase these iron campaign chests. And upon opening up these chests, this will give us tomes of insight, which will allow us to spec up our weapons even further. But with that all out of the way, let's head into the static dungeons. Sup guys, Border here, and before we head into the static dungeon, let's go over some static dungeon knowledge 101. So where to find a static dungeon? These dungeons spawn in blue, yellow, red, and black zones. And where to find them on the map, you ask? They will look like these castle icons, or a large looking keep, such as this. And unlike solo or group dungeons, these dungeons never disappear. They are permanent dungeons on the map. Now in terms of the difficulty of these dungeons, as you can see here, it's recommended that you have a group of 3 to 5 players. But since it's a tier 4 zone, we can solo this content and get all the fame and rewards for ourselves in tier 6.3 gear or better. Static dungeons also have chests that randomly spawn throughout the map, so we'll be keeping a keen eye on the map to see if we can grab some chests and all the rewards with it. But with that out of the way, let's head into the static dungeon. Alright guys, we've entered our first static dungeon, and some of you may be asking at this point, Border, is the Realm Breaker really the best idea for solo static dungeons? And my answer to that? Absolutely not. But the Realm Breaker is the last axe we had to level up to 100. So I looked back at all the other content we did. We did solo dungeons, we did open world farming, Avalonian Roads, the Mists, red zones, like everything. So this was the last form of content that we had to do for fame farming. So in terms of the static dungeons with the Realm Breaker, we're going to start with tier 4 dungeons, such as this one, and then if we do well enough, we may try tier 5, but we'll see how it goes. And to follow up on that, if you wanted the optimal axe for solo static dungeon farming, what you want is the battle axe. The battle axe is the best axe in terms of sustain, solo content. Definitely want to go with the battle axe, for sure. Here we go, last mob about to drop from this group here. Here we go, 13,000 fame, and I think I saw over 100 faction points. So you can see why farming these mobs are worth it. One little tip I'd like to give you guys, when using tier gear this high, if you manage to get knocked down consistently, your repair bill is going to skyrocket. So say you're farming a pack of mobs and you make a mistake, your health is dropping real low, just reset the mobs, reset the fight. Because if you get knocked down, your repair bill is going to be super expensive. So it's better to just reset the fight, regroup, and go again, and avoid getting knocked down altogether. In addition to that, if you find yourself having trouble with a pack of mobs individually, you can always take them down 1 by 1 or 2 by 2, and then just reset the fight. That way, you reset them, and then when you go back, there's 1 or 2 less mobs to take on the next time, making it easier. Another thing that can happen with static dungeons is the troops will begin to rally. This means the mobs will respawn quicker, and they will also upgrade in terms of difficulty, but the rewards will also increase as a result. Alrighty, and with our dungeon rallying itself, we're definitely going to try to clear as many mobs as possible. The only downside to a dungeon rallying is that other players may be drawn to it to take advantage of those increased mobs and rewards. So we're definitely going to try and beat other players to the clearing of the mobs, and hopefully capitalize on fame and faction points. Alrighty, we have entered the Hollow Under Crypt, and we're seeing a nice pack of mobs here, empowered, ranging from anywhere to 11 to 9k health, so pretty beefy in that regard. See how quick we can take them down here without getting knocked down, but we'll see how it goes. Here we go, a couple of these mobs about to drop. See how much fame we get. We go 13k fame, 102 faction points. Pretty good, pretty good. While farming this static dungeon with my Bridgewatch friends, I was able to unlock another campaign chest, so in doing so I'm going to check it out, and I was able to get a decent amount of loot and 3 tier 7 tomes of insight, which is equivalent to 300,000 fame, so overall, pretty good. Alrighty, we do have another friendly player here to help us out, a fellow dagger player. Usually if I was using the battle axe to farm these static dungeons, I'd be a little bit more open to soloing. But since I do have the Realm Breaker, to be honest, it's been a little bit slower, so I don't mind a little bit of help here and there, just even if it involves sharing the fame and faction points. And looks like we have a chest coming up here, so let's clear the rest of the mobs out here and see what the chest is all about. There we go, final mob does drop. We actually had to go back to the previous room to clear out the respawning mobs. But let's see what we get. Uncommon chest here between the two of us. Nothing crazy, but keep in mind it is a tier 4 zone, so let's take what we can get. We are primarily in here for the fame anyways, so loot, it's a secondary, so no worries. We do have a fun little combo we've been doing together that I've never really seen. Basically, he does that with his Dustweaver Boots and stuns them, and then I come in with the clap with the Realm Breaker. After spending some more time in the static dungeons, farming endless amounts of mobs, we were successfully able to level up the Realm Breaker all the way up to Spec 100. And that, my friends, marks the completion of our journey. We set out with a goal, and we completed it, speccing each axe all the way up to 100 for a total of 700 spec. I want to thank you all so much for supporting me on this journey to 700 spec. No matter if you tuned in for one episode or maybe all 5, I really appreciate all your guys' support, and I love making content for you guys, so thank you for everything you do. If you guys enjoyed this series, I would love it if you gave it a like and considered subscribing to the channel for more series like this, and maybe leave a comment to give me some feedback. Otherwise, that about does it for me. Thank you guys so much for your support, big love to you guys, but until next time, stay safe, stay positive, and I'll see you in the Discord.